You're listening to the My Simplified Life podcast, and this is episode number 219. Welcome to the My Simplified Life podcast, a place where you will learn that your past and even your present don't define your future. Regardless of what stage of life you're in, I want you to feel inspired and encouraged to pursue your dreams, simplify your life, and start taking action today. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac, and I'm excited to share my stories and life lessons with you while taking you on my own journey. This is My Simplified Life. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac. And it's been over a month since my book launched, and throughout the process, the word expectations has started to come up for me personally in therapy, because we all need a good therapist to talk about these things. And when I talk about expectations, I've been thinking even more about how they cover so many things in life, not just expectations of other people, but expectations of ourselves and the pressure we put on ourselves, expectations of what we think an outcome is going to be. And so I want to talk about what I've been going through in regards to expectations. And when you have something like a book launching or you have your business, what are you looking for? What are you thinking is going to happen? And what does that do to you and your mindset? And do you need to lower your expectations, or do you need to switch them, pivot them, if per se? And it begins with, your expectations, I think, in your relationships, your expectations of your friends, your partners, your kids, other people in general. And what surprised me the most, I think, is that I had absolutely no expectations from strangers. And yet I've received so much support from people I don't even know. And that's been such a wonderful, humbling experience to know that there are people out there who want to support you in whatever you're doing, and you don't expect it. And that's such a great surprise to have. I've had expectations, I think, based on my experience in this industry, in the support that I've shown to other people. And I think I assumed, and we all know what that word does to you, that it would be reciprocated. And in some cases, it absolutely was. It was exceeded. And yet in other cases, I kind of went, wow, where did this person go? Because there was nothing reciprocated. And that's when I've had to check my expectations. Do I continue to put forth the effort that I do in supporting other people? And it came up in my therapy session this past week of, yeah, but I need to be more reserved and more focused on what I'm going to support or who I'm going to support. And, do I have those same expectations? Do I lower them? No, I don't think that you need to lower your expectations just because they aren't met. But you should definitely reflect on why they weren't met. Is it something that you did? Is it something that the other person maybe has more going on in their life than you even know of? And so they can't meet those expectations. And that's a hard pill to really swallow when you thought something was going to happen that didn't. My example can be of, sharing book boxes. And I spent a lot of time and effort and money in putting together these beautiful boxes that I shared on my Instagram and my TikTok. And yet the people who received them didn't share them. There was one that did, but all the rest didn't. And I don't know why. I had that expectation of when you receive a box, you share it. You tell people, because that's kind of the point of a box, But that didn't happen. And I'm becoming more okay with that, and that I'm sharing it with the world, and it's fine. It's fine. That's just what we're going to go with. But having that expectation of, it's going to hit the internet and everybody's going to see, just how beautiful it is because I put so much work and love and effort into it. And that didn't happen. And that's also a reflection of me in thinking that maybe the world doesn't need to see it. Maybe that's something that I don't need to get credit for. I need to step back and reflect on that as well. Then there's the expectation of, friendships and your partner and your kids. And for me, I am so blessed to say that everyone's exceeded any kind of expectation I had. I didn't think that I was going to have flowers and champagne and celebrations and text messages and, all of those things. And I did. And tears flowing from my two children of how proud and happy they are of this book coming out, which is absolutely incredible to me because they're tiny humans, and yet they understand the magnitude of what this has meant for me and for them and for our family. And then let's talk about expectations around businesses. And we live in this online world where really you can say whatever you want and people will believe you because it's on the internet. It's like the coaches who, I'm a life coach, even though I'm 21 years old and haven't experienced a whole bunch of life, whereas someone else who's had a corporate career or has launched a business and has had relationships and been parents and has had all of these other experiences can actually give solid advice because they've lived through it. But anybody can be a coach. You can just say you're a coach and now you're a coach. I've seen people who pitch podcasts and they say, oh, I'm the expert in pitching podcasts, when the truth is that they had this other career and they showed up on a couple podcasts and were like, you know what, this is cool. I'm just going to say that I can pitch people on them. And yes, I get that I had an 18-year career that had nothing to do with podcasts, but now I've been doing this for 5 years, more than 5 years. And so I'm practicing it every single day. And I do consider myself somewhat of an expert. I'm not really a fan of that word, but I know what I'm doing. And that's really what it comes down to. Versus, what do we expect someone who says, this is what I do? Well, can you do it? What's your experience? How long have you been doing it? Or we see online, and I love that my friend Karen brought this up in one of her recent Instagram posts, people who were like, I make 6 figures, I make 7 figures. But what is that? Your revenue? Well, what's your profit? Like, let's talk about actual profit and not just that you brought in 6 figures. Because you could have brought in 6 figures, but you could have also expensed more than 6 figures. And so your revenue was 0 or negative. And we need to pay attention to that because we put those expectations on ourselves of why aren't I making that much money? Why am I not succeeding like that? This person's saying that they made, multiple 6 figures last year and I only made, 1 6 figure. I didn't even hit 6 figures. But did they really make those 6 figures? Because they're not sharing the absolute truth. There's all kinds of expenses that go into a business. What were those expenses? What was their bottom line? What's their P&L look like? Do they even know what a P&L is? Because they should if they're running a business, especially one that's hitting 6 figures. So think about that when you're looking at Instagram or Threads or whatever it is, and someone's promoting how they made 6 figures and the expectation that's now you're putting on yourself of, oh, I need to do that too. Don't, because we don't know what the truth is behind whatever it is that they're claiming that they've made. The other thing would be the expectations we put on ourselves. The expectations of how do we succeed financially? How do we succeed in our appearances? What do we expect? And we're seeing all kinds of, weight loss drugs now, and people can get their hands on them. And so there's a comparison. And what do we expect? Do we expect that this is going to happen for us? I personally struggle with it and have reached out to doctors to say, help me. I need to be seen. I need you to help me in my struggles. And I think that that's part of the expectation is we want to feel seen and heard. And when we're not, then we feel like those expectations of ourselves fail. And yet we can't judge a book by its cover. Same goes for people. So when I look, we'll go back to the book. When I look at other books that have launched around my time or before, and I think, wow, look, this person hit the bestseller list, or these are book club picks, and that's so amazing. And I want to strive for something like that, but I have to take a moment to step back and realize that my book is different. My book is not going to be in a book club. It would be really cool for a nonfiction one, but chances are that a bunch of women sitting around drinking wine are not going to be discussing how they can get on podcasts and share their stories. So I have to I don't lower. We change those expectations. And I think the same thing goes for ourselves inside and outside. How do we change those perspectives to make those pivots so that we don't lower any expectations? We shouldn't have to lower expectations. We should exceed and make higher expectations of ourselves and others, but to do it through a lens that's appropriate. That, yes, I want to make 6 figures. Do I want to make 7? Heck yeah, I do. Is it an expectation that's realistic right now? Probably not, but maybe. So don't have those expectations where you lower them and get rid of them. Allow them to be there, but don't focus so solely on them. And I say this as usual, not just for you, but as much for myself. And, when it comes to friendships or relationships, are your expectations wrong? I don't think so. I think that maybe you're in a season of life in which different friends might be necessary to meet those expectations, because whatever you're putting out should definitely be matched and reciprocated. And if it's not, it's okay to move on. It's absolutely okay to make that pivot, make that change, to find new friends, find a new relationship, to do that and to talk about it. You can say, you know what, I'm disappointed because of whatever it is. And that's hard, because it's hard to state our feelings when we know that even if they're valid, the person on the receiving end might not be okay with hearing it. They might not want to hear it. They might know that they did fail in meeting those expectations, like tremendously. And they might be struggling with that too, because again, we don't know what else is going on for that person. So all of this is to say that, when we manage our expectations, I want you to not lower them. Make sure that people can meet them, that you can meet them or exceed them, but don't lower them just because you didn't find that expectations were met in some form, way, shape, aspect of your life. It shouldn't be something that's lowered. Keep striving to have your expectations met, because you deserve it. And just because others can't meet those expectations that you have doesn't mean that you're falling flat. It doesn't mean that they're falling flat. They just may not be capable of meeting those expectations, and it's okay to move on. It's okay to change your expectations of people, of yourself. Allow yourself to reflect on all of it. Write down what your expectations were. Where did they fall flat? Did they get exceeded? Where did people surprise you? Where did you surprise yourself? And make note of all of that, because it's so positive. And you can make note of where the expectations weren't met. Where did you think something was going to happen and it didn't? And why? Allow yourself that freedom to journal it and to let it all out, to talk about it with a therapist, to cry if it's necessary. I had no idea I had so many tears waiting just to come out of me last week. And it did. And it felt so good to just release it and put it out there in a safe space. So allow yourself that. Allow yourself to be disappointed if you're disappointed. And allow yourself to know that you deserve to have your expectations met, no matter what they are, big, small, in between. You deserve that. And I think that's best how you can manage your expectations.